Hello and welcome to another episode of Grange TV. We have with us probably one of the most influential people of our time, Mr. Eli Hedges, TAFE extraordinaire, special guest Craig Jones and Mr. Robert Whittaker.
Hello.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for the visit too. We're having a great time watching Craig roll, watching you two roll, Craig and Rob roll, because I actually have a staph infection, so I can't train. It just makes me not want to do jiu-jitsu at all. So I'm glad that I realise how shit my life is. Thank you, guys.
No, also I think one of us is rolling, like Craig's rolling. I'm just there. I'm just being there. I'm just a dummy.
What's been happening, Craig? So can you because you got a crazy schedule. A lot of people don't know like what it's like. Like, you tell us a little bit about your schedule?
So 2018 was probably the craziest year for my jiu-jitsu. I had a big win at ADCC in 2017, and since then it really took off. But just non-stop international trips, non-stop seminars. I think I did like 36 international trips just for 2018. So it was, massive year. So that's like, I think I competed in 10 events, 75 seminars, 2 training camps. Yeah, it was rough. It was a rough year. Too many flights.
When you said 36 countries?
36 separate international trips. So sometimes I think I went to the UK like 3 times in the end. Some places multiple times, yeah.
How many times did you fly out of Australia? 36 times? No.
I'd have to put it together. Sometimes it would be like the US to the UK. But yeah, most of the times I would come back to Australia quite a bit, but only for short stints. So that's where it sucks living in Australia. It's like, what is it, to the UK 24 hours, to the US 16 hours. So that really adds up.
A little bit of trivia. The longest trip in the world, the longest one non-stop flight, Sydney to Dallas. Yeah. Have you done that one?
I haven't done that. What's that, 17 hours?
Yeah, 17 hours and 20 minutes. A barrel of fun. It's an absolute fucking stuck in economy. What's it like for you, Rob, with a travel like that, living out here?
It's terrible. It's terrible. It depends how you fly as well. Like, and I'm one of those guys that can't sleep on a plane at all. So as soon as I get in there, I'm up the whole time. And then when I land in the US, I'm a mess. I'm a mess of a person. Like, what about you? Do you sleep?
I sleep. Yeah, I try and take like a sleeping tablet or something. I try and force adjust the time zone change. So if I say I'm flying to a country where I should be awake, I try and stay awake on the plane. And then if I should be asleep, I try and take like a sleeping tablet.
Does jet lag affect you?
Yeah. Actually, I'm not so bad to the US these days. But when I fly to the UK, that hits me for like 4 or 5 days.
Wow. And like, what happens? How does it affect you?
Just like trying to stay awake, and it's like 6 p.m. and then waking up at 3 a.m. Usually fly to the UK for at least 2-3 days, wide awake at 3 a.m.
Wow.
So with like nothing to do really.
Yeah, I'm very much like that as well. Like whenever I go to the US, and you think I would have gotten a little bit used to it, but nah. When I get there, every time I'm waking up at like 4, and I'm wide awake as bells, and then like around midday, I'm so tired.
Yeah, it's horrible. You never get used to it. It feels like it's doing horrible things to your health, right?
Yeah, well, because then you're trying to, like, I bet you're the same. You're trying to get in sessions at the same time, and you're trying to do different things. You have different commitments over there, and it's hard.
Yeah, I remember for ADCC, because at the time I was broke and I couldn't afford to take too much time off teaching classes. So I flew to, where was it? It was in Finland. But I just flew in the day before the competition. So it was like, by the time the competition came, I was up at 2 a.m. that day.
Wow.
Which was a big mistake, probably in retrospect.
Yeah. But that was the time of your biggest wins too.
That was, yeah. On the first day, I felt fine. Because I had 2 matches in the end. 2 matches, and then the next day were the semis and the open weight. But by day 2 rolled around, waking up at 2 a.m., horrible.
Can you tell us about the lead up into those matches? Because that was your like, people in Australia we knew about you, but heading into the was it Leandro Lo and
Leandro Lo, yeah.
Yeah, but was it Leandro Lo first or Murilo Santana first?
Leandro first round and Murilo second round. So they put because the Asia Oceania ADCC trials, we're sort of like a low seed country. I think we're the lowest seed trials event. So we have to face the favorite to win the division first round, just the way they seed it. And for this ADCC, they actually did some betting odds, and they put me against Leandro first, and it was a 50-1 underdog.
Did you put money on it?
I should have put money on it, yeah. But yeah, I was 50-1 underdog for that. But I was able to get the better of Leandro. But then,
what was it like going into it though? Like going up against Leandro Lowe. Can you give a little bit of background on who Leandro Lowe is for people that don't know, and then just tell us what it's like for you going in there?
Yep. Well, Leandro is probably considered one of the best gi grapplers in the world. I think he won the world championships at lightweight 2 years in a row, and then he won at middle, medium heavy, and then he lost at heavyweight. So he's crazy because he's just jumping weight divisions and still doing very, very well. But he's mostly a gi grappler. But previous to this ADCC, he had a super fight with Gordon Ryan, who I guess most people consider the best no-gi grappler in the world. He beat Gordon Ryan in a no-gi event. So based on that, they had him as the favorite to win this ADCC. But yeah, Leandro is a crazy guy because he's notorious for not tapping to submissions. If someone attacks his legs, he'll just let it snap. And that's what happened in our match. I was able to get him in a leg lock. And I wasn't sure whether he would tap, but I was certain I could do enough damage to sort of change the match. And yeah, he just let something tore in his knee. It sounded like a big sheet of cardboard tearing.
Oh, really?
He just pulls.
What was it that you had exactly?
I had an inside heel hook. And not only did he not tap, he rolled the wrong way. So we made it come on twice as quick. And then he just bluffs it out. Like I remember, I didn't see it at the time because we went out of bounds. And we're walking back, so I'm facing the ref, and he's behind me, and he's just shaking his leg out a little bit, trying to get feeling back in that thing.
Fuck.
He's crazy though. He's let it hyperextend the wrong way as well, from like a knee bar, so it's cranked the wrong angle completely, and he just tries to like smile, shake his finger or something, and then he rips it out. He took the guy's back. He's a crazy guy.
I'm trying to work this out.
He said he made a statement. He goes, "I'll never tap to a leg submission," and he never has. Yeah.
Does he not need his legs? like, I don't know how you're supposed to keep grappling when your knee goes.
It's
like
crazy,
everything
yeah.
breaks in it.
Yeah, some Brazilian guys don't want to tap to leg locks because they don't consider them. I guess some people don't consider them an honorable submission traditionally. A lot of guys don't think that way these days, but they still just don't want to tap to it.
Yeah, but some leg locks are devastating. Like you can really get your.
Yeah, the inside heel hook should probably do some of the most damage, I think.
I rolled. We had an instructor, a great jiu-jitsu guy at our gym named Hugo Nunez. I'm going to shout him out. And he footlocked me once and almost broke my shin. and I fucking thought he was gonna like. He didn't like. He just put it on, you know.
Yep.
And that combination of him being really good, super strong, and me being a bit of a pussy and having skinny legs, that perfect storm combined almost broke my shin. So I imagine people have to tap at some point.
Well, Hector Lombard did that.
Yes, in a competition he broke that dude's shin.
And that dude was a kid. That guy was, I think he's 17 or 18. Straight ankle lock, snapped the tibia fibula in half.
Yeah, you can see it on YouTube.
I don't want it.
And you hear it. That's the worst part.
I don't want it. Oh, you're grossing me out. Like barbaric.
You know Manny Gamburian?
Yeah. He's the Ultimate Fighter guy, right?
Yeah, that guy. He was in a match in the UFC after the house, and he put it on someone, and you see the bone go. It didn't snap, but you see, I believe, it might have been the tibia, like just kind of like slide out or something of the guy's leg, and the guy screamed, like it just went like that, and he's like, "Fuck, I didn't mean to break your leg," and I'm like, "I'm pretty sure you did," but
yeah,
it looked like you did.
Like, what were you trying to do then?
So in the lead up to it, were you particularly nervous of the fact that you were up against him?
Well, actually, because the way ADCC works is if you're in a division with a teammate, you guys are meant to face first round. So they don't generally want you to risk you both getting in the final and having maybe a fake match. So I trained with Kid for that event, so I was assuming I'd either have Kid first round or second round. Like they'd try and get us together early. But the guy that organized the bracket forgot we were teammates, so we separated it. So the whole training camp, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, it's probably going to be Kit I'm going to have to face. But then on the day of the event, it was Leandro. So it probably worked in my favor because I wasn't really thinking about having to face maybe the best guy in the world straight away. And that sort of took away a bit of the stress, I think.
And then with Leandro was rear naked you got him with?
I rear naked, yeah. So I went for the legs. He popped his leg. I went for the same leg
He
lock.
popped his leg and kept rolling.
Kept going, yeah.
Oh,
Just
God.
shook it
He's
out.
done it before.
Yeah, I don't get it. I was like,
Yeah, he's
there
done.
was a cardboard tear.
Yeah, like a huge. It sounded horrible, but I went for the same leg lock, and I just used it to sweep the next time, and he gave up the back, and gave the choke. But yeah, he was obviously he respected the leg lock, just not enough to tap to it.
Did he tap to the rear naked or did he just go?
Yeah, he tapped to the rear naked. So he'll tap
If I
to
had
the
to
one.
pick one,
I'd rather go out.
yeah, like I'm not gonna let my knee tear.
For sure. But I mean, Leandro used to train with some guys, the Meow brothers, and they're even worse again. There's a video of Joao Meow getting put in a toe hold, and his foot does a complete 360.
Oh my god!
It
No.
comes, there's no ligaments attached anymore, so it comes completely out of the socket.
It's called an amputation.
Yeah. And the guy's toe holding him, looking at the ref, and Meow's facial expression is not even changing, and he lets go of it, and it just slingshots back into place.
And then what happens?
He just wins the match. He goes on to win the match.
Can he walk?
He hobbles because his ankles don't have the ligaments to.
Wait, they didn't have him before or they don't have him now?
They don't have him now. Like they're completely destroyed. I reckon it would be amazing to see those guys get like an MRI of their whole body, because generally speaking, they won't tap to anything. They let everything go.
That was an awkward silence.
I'm trying to think about it. I'm thinking like in that sense, like that's so much worse than like MMA.
No, but I will say this: you I think it was your first fight, didn't tap to heel hook, and you
Yeah.
got your knee torn.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well,
That's-
I think though. to my defense,
That's a pot calling the kettle black.
No. To my defense, I didn't know what a heel hook was at that point. So I didn't know my knee was in danger.
And did it hurt a lot when it popped?
I didn't feel it at all.
So maybe it's that. Maybe the adrenaline covers it to a certain extent.
No, if you've let your knee pop multiple times and you're like high level jiu-jitsu and you can see your knee at a funny angle, you know what's happening.
What about with you when you've been caught in stuff like that?
Luckily, I haven't had to make that decision yet.
But what about with an arm?
With an arm, generally speaking, I'll tap. If it was like a career-defining moment, I'd probably really. It depends what it was, you know. If it was some sort of neck or spine lock, I'd probably tap to that, just because that would be long-lasting
Probably.
damage.
Yeah.
Probably.
But it's a difficult thing. Like if you're up.
No,
by
if it's
points-
you're up 3 points and the thing's about to end and
Yeah,
you've
like-
let the arm break.
Yeah, I might sacrifice an arm. I might. It's hard to put in perspective. Maybe in the heat of the moment, yeah, I might let it go.
And there's different types of things too, because you can just have your elbow dislocated and then you pull out of the arm, or it snaps the ulna and the radius.
Yeah, like Frank Mir did that.
Yeah, it just snaps and you fucking
Yeah, well, I mean,
poke the guy with the shards of the bone.
I've been armbarred and tapped, and the guy still hyperextended my arm. And I thought, how much worse would it have been if I didn't tap? Like, he just did the damage anyway.
Who was that?
Years ago, Burak, a Melbourne guy, he armbarred me. I tapped, he ripped it. It went backwards maybe out to here. And it wasn't that bad the next. Like, I had to recover from it. But I remember thinking, like, I probably could have kept grappling. I probably could have let that go.
Did he hate you?
I mean, maybe. It's like a Pau Harez moment, right?
Fuck. And we'll get to Paharas in a second. And then there was...
Murillo.
So when you beat Leandro, what were the feelings associated with that? And was it hard to come down from the high of winning and get ready for Murillo?
A little bit, but I was pretty worried about Murillo. Murillo's he's probably one of the best grapplers in the world too. Probably Nogi, definitely better in Nogi than Leandro is, but just less famous.
I was in Abu Dhabi when he won, not in Abu Dhabi, I was in Rio when he won the Abu Dhabi trials in Rio
Yeah.
at 77 kilos. And I saw, like, I watched him, he beat everyone and he was so good.
Yeah,
This was 2009, 2010, whatever it was, 2009.
Yeah, back in those days, he had a run at the ADCC Worlds where he kept came really close to beating all the best guys. He just got edged out. Like it was like Andre Galvao, Kron Gracie.
By like 1-0 or something
Yeah.
against Andre Galvao.
Yeah, like, well, he swept Andre Galvao before points came in, and then Galvao swept him back after points. But it was like dead even. So I was pretty worried about facing Murillo, but I was able to catch him. I caught him with a flying triangle pretty early.
What made you do that? Like what?
Just because there were at that point you weren't going to lose points by ending up on bottom. So I thought I'd just wing it.
And just go with a flying triangle.
Yeah, sort of more, I guess, a high risk move.
Yeah, I would have tried that too.
Yeah.
Why the fuck not?
There's nothing to lose.
Yeah. So, and then you had Ribeiro after that?
Yeah, then the next day I had, did I have Ribeiro? Ribeiro was I had Keenan Cornelius the next day. And I'd previously trained with Keenan. I felt pretty confident going into that match. And then again, after the first day, probably too confident. I took a few too many risky moves, and he beat me by points. And then I had the bronze medal match against Shanji, and Shanji beat me by a takedown. And then we did the open weight. And for the open weight, I didn't want to compete anymore. I had already finished for the day. I was at the bar. I was having a couple beers with my coach, Lachlan. And the promoter, the organizer came up and he's like, are you going to do open weight? And I was like, drinking a beer. I'm like, clearly I'm not going to do the open weight division. And he's like, what if I give you Chael Sonnen? And I was like, all right, I'll do it if it's Chael Sonnen. Because I didn't want to enter the open weight if it was like some, like Buchecha or Alonso Sanchez, some monster, like 120 kilo monster. But I thought I would do it for Chael Sonnen. And I was able to leg lock him, but then I lost the next match to Gordon.
What was Chael like to grapple?
Yeah, he was pretty, he's a strong guy.
Was he big? Was he jacked for that?
Pretty jacked. I reckon he would have been over 100 kilos. What was weird is he had a super fight at ADCC, and they still put him in the open weight. Generally speaking, you have to do the divisions to get put in the open weight. But there were a lot of guys that year that didn't want to compete in the open weight, so they bumped Chael Sonnen in, which was good because it's a good win for me, a good like famous MMA fighter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Good name.
Have you tapped any MMA fighters since that? Or say today? Have you tapped any MMA fighters today?
None at all.
Just today. I'm just like just throwing a random day out. What about Palhares? Because he's a scary fella. He looks like he could apply some torque.
Oh yeah, 'cause I remember I used to joke about qualifying for ADCC because 88 kilos was Palhares' division, and I used to always be like, oh, I'm excited I've qualified, but I hope that guy's not in the division. We're not even getting paid for this, you know what I mean? I hope they don't bring him in, but they didn't bring him in. But then I ended up having to face him in a super fight anyway, and there was just it was just problem after problem with that guy. We signed a match at 190 pounds, and he showed up the day before at 220 pounds. And his first excuse was...
So he missed weight by 30 pounds.
By 30. He had a note from a doctor that said if he cuts weight, he will die.
In them words?
Yeah. And then the second excuse was that he had a second manager that told him... Well, he said, I thought all grappling matches, there were never any weight divisions. And
he said that?
He said that. And I was like, but you had a match with Gary Tonin where you made weight. So it was just problem after problem. Palhares is, like a lot of people say...
Did you end up taking I know you took the match, but so what happened? He didn't have to cut weight?
He didn't cut weight.
You should fight at featherweight, Rob. And just have that thing.
Just have a note from the doctor.
I go, a note from my mum. Rob cut weight.
You fight women's flyweight.
Yes,
Yeah.
I took the match anyway, but it was a terrible match. Nothing happened.
Why is that?
Well, he just didn't engage. Like I sat to guard because he was obviously a lot bigger, so I didn't really want to wrestle with the guy. And then he just kept pushing me. He kept doing this crazy thing during the match where he would stop grappling. He'd look at me and he'd start smiling, and I'd be uncomfortable, so I'd like smile back at him, and then he'd just slap me in the face. And I was like, what is wrong with this guy?
How much did you do that?
A lot, yeah. He slapped me a lot.
How long did the match go for?
15 minutes.
It's a long time to get
But
slapped.
if you watch it, it feels like an hour maybe. Because that's all that happens.
What, was he ridiculously strong?
Yeah, he's super strong. I was just trying to butt scoot towards him to grab him. and he would hit me to the floor, and I couldn't hold on to the guy. Like, he'd hit me. I remember one time he slapped me to the floor so hard, I posted on my elbow, my shoulder almost came out. I was like, bang, and almost popped out. I felt like a superhuman.
How much more or the same did he slap you compared to Cyborg and Gordon?
Oh, yeah, Gordon got slapped a lot more.
Oh, Gordon got slapped a lot more than
Yeah, they were like strikes, basically. Cyborg slapped Gordon. They were like basically throwing punches to his face.
But Pahara's wasn't like that with you.
He hides it in like a wrestling tie-up.
I don't think he hit it that well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I watched the match. It didn't hide it.
Can you explain to me, like, how are there strikes in grappling?
Yeah, there's not meant to be unless it's.
But how, like, just help me out here. Like, how does one sneak a strike in?
They pretend to grab a necktie and then just try
like a head snap.
Yeah, and try and smack you in the back of the head as hard as they can.
Yeah, but like
Izzy playing basketball.
Yeah, how Izzy plays basketball. Yeah, that's how Izzy plays. So when you face these guys now, when did the transition happen? Because at some point you would have, and I mean it may have happened before that, but at some point you would have looked at Leandro Lowe or Murilo Santana and been like a fan.
All right, yeah.
When did that change?
Well, I competed in ADCC in 2015, was it? Or 2015. And I came in like 8 kilos underweight. I was more coming in like a fan, and I fought Romulo Barral, who was the previous champ, and he beat me in 3 minutes. But I remember thinking, like, I didn't go in with any expectation of winning, but I remember thinking there was some moments in that match where I got my guard back. Like, so the guy didn't feel like completely unbeatable. And then I guess from that moment on, I started looking at the opponents as sort of more human beings rather than the people you worship, I guess.
When did that happen with you? What was the relationship with that with you, with or lack of relationship with that with you, with fighting and that?
Yeah.
Did you ever look at anyone as a fan?
Not as a fan.
Because you didn't really watch a lot of MMA, in fairness.
Yeah. I've never looked at any of them as a fan or anything like that, but I definitely looked at like the top 5 dudes, like when Weidman was champ and Anderson Silva was up there, and a lot of those killers were up the top. Like, I definitely looked at them and like thought to myself, man, I've got a long way to go. Got a long way to go. And then I don't know. Like, I just edged my way closer, and then I fought Uriah Hall, and then I fought Brunson, and it was Brunson and Jacare where my perspective changed, much like your own, where it's like, oh wow, these guys are just human. They drop like everybody else, like, you know. And then after those, and then I back-to-back Romeros, like, I realized that, you know, I'm up there with everybody else.
Back-to-back Romero fights will do that to a man. They'll do that.
He's fun to grapple.
Yeah. He gets younger every year.
Yeah, he just keeps getting younger.
He's got a painting that ages for him.
I was going to ask you, with in the jiu-jitsu world, is there friction between the Brazilians and the non-Brazilians?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some people play it up a lot. I guess you got to be very careful. Some guys will lose a match to a Brazilian, and they'll blame they'll think that they lost because the Brazilians were corrupt or something like that. So it's a fine line between you wanting to take away your opponent's victory, you know what I mean, and make it excuses. But there definitely is a lot of friction. Like Keenan Cornelius has had some tough calls made against him, and a lot of the time people look back and say that it's because he's an American. And I guess the Brazilians run the IBJJF, the biggest tournament series in the world, and they hire predominantly Brazilian refs. And I think a lot of close calls do go towards the Brazilian competitors. And it's hard. You can't get in the mind of the ref and see if they are being corrupt or if that's really truly how they saw it. But that definitely is a big factor.
Can you explain IFBJJF and how it's run and what you mean by that?
Oh, the IBJJF is it's just a company, one of the oldest companies for running tournaments in jiu-jitsu. I think they won the first Worlds in 1996, and they've been running tournaments ever since. They're sort of like the most widely recognized #1 gi tournament in the world. They get the biggest numbers in the world. They charge a lot of money to compete. And they charge you registrations to become a member to compete. They really, your coach has to be registered. He has to pay a lot of money to register his team just so that you can compete. I think your coach has to have 3 stripes now on his black belt, recognized by them. He has to be a member throughout that whole process for them to recognize him, or he has to go through a lot of paperwork to backtrack that. I guess it sort of makes sense in that they're sort of trying to make it legitimate black belts are running these teams. But again, you could see the opportunity for corruption there and to make a lot of money out of it. And then these guys run these events, and they run a stack of events. There's probably one every weekend of the year, sometimes multiple events per year. I think Europeans would have 5,000 competitors paying close to $200 to compete. So you can see there's a lot of money going in. I think they have started paying the athletes recently, maybe the #1 ranking over the course of the series. I think if you win a world championship, you don't get paid anything, but you get any IBJJF tournament you've ever entered, you get all the registration fees back, and you get to compete free for life after that. So for a company that makes an absolute fortune, it's really not a great avenue for a professional competitor. But again, with jiu-jitsu, you make most of your money off of your name. So I guess by winning the IBJJF, you are going to elevate your name. I guess you are somewhat being exploited, but from the growth of your name, you are going to build up a name to sell seminars, sell DVDs, maybe get some super fights that will actually pay you.
Well, were they the reason that I remember when Rio held the Olympics, they were allowed to add some sports and they wanted to add BJJ, didn't they? But I think that was the reason why, because they thought that it would take away from the competitions.
The way it works, I believe, with the Olympic Games is if you want a sport in the Olympics, now the Olympics oversees and owns that sport essentially. So the IBJJF definitely don't want to give up their control over the sport to an Olympic body. But they definitely should have put it in for the Brazilian Olympics. You could add in your own sport. They should have added in one of their biggest time sports.
Here's a question. How much do you think not having jiu-jitsu in the Olympics affects jiu-jitsu?
I guess just government funding, really. A lot of Olympic sports get government funding. That's the only thing we'd really miss out on.
Do you think it would affect the widespread practice of the sport?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they did with judo, right? They put judo in the Olympics and they kept changing the rules to make it more fan-friendly, and then it just became something completely different to what... I think judo back in the day used to be more like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is today.
It was, you had like Kosen judo and you had a lot more free-flowing Nawaza. Fun fact, but judo's after soccer is the most practiced sport in the world.
Oh, really?
Like the most widespread sport in the world. And like if you go like to African countries, you know, wherever they all do judo. They all do judo. How far, like, and it's one of the things like that I think is what holds jiu-jitsu back from being like a sport as widely spread as judo is if you're not gonna, I don't know enough about the governing body and not, but if you're not gonna have it in the Olympics and it's not gonna be able to go through the governing bodies of all these separate nations, you're probably missing out on a lot of talent as well.
For sure. I guess the problem I see with judo is, although judo is so widely practiced, there's very few judo athletes making any money at all, right? That's why I guess I thank the Gracies for being shrewd businessmen back in the day, for putting a value. Like, people are willing to pay large amounts of money to do jiu-jitsu, but you couldn't convince the average consumer to pay. They don't even want to pay for judo. I guess judo is so government.
Same as wrestling, boxing. People don't want to pay more than $10 a week at the PCYC.
Exactly, yeah. But for some reason, like in our gym charges $54 a week to train, and that's, people don't even blink at that. But I get, if it was only judo, you might be like, oh, no way.
What's it like? When did you jump up financially making a living? Like after those 2 wins?
After those 2 wins, yeah. Previous to that was just
drastic changes.
Yeah, drastic. I think at the time I was probably after rent on $150 a week, trying to make do out of that. I'd have to teach the morning classes, so I'd get up 5:30 every day. I'd teach the 6:30 to 7:30 jiu-jitsu class. I'd try and fill the day with privates, and then I'd have to teach sometimes 2 extra classes at night, sometimes far away from where I lived. So I wasn't getting much sleep at all, just filling the day with private lessons. But then after that, it was a lot easier. Sponsorship came after that. Seminars were a lot easier to get.
And so what's a typical day for you now?
Day for me now? I mean, I don't even have a typical day anymore, really, spending so much time on the road. So, like, I mean, typical day in Melbourne would be probably just train twice a day, kick back, do absolutely nothing else, order Uber Eats.
So what happens? You get up at what time?
Nowadays, probably get up at like 7, 8 a.m. I think we train at 10:30, and then I'll try and fit in another training session throughout the day at any other point, maybe do some weightlifting as well. Usually in bed pretty early.
And when you have, and then you might have that for how long until you have to go on the road for seminars? Like how does that work?
I would say I've been home for 3 months out of the last maybe 15 months. The worst part's paying rent for a house you're not in.
It's fucking brutal, but the flights, international flights, and that they would take its toll. But
yeah, I should calculate how much.
Because you're only 17 years old or something.
Me, 27.
Oh fuck! Well, you. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the worst part's just flying. It's just horrible. Hey, but I think a lot of people fantasize about the traveling life, but like what they really fantasizing about is a vacation.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like when like Rob fights and like they'll go, oh, it's must be fun. You go, you know, and I think, fuck, like I'm not even fighting and it's not fun. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It's very, very stressful. And there's places you got to be with big consequences. You know, like it's not.
Yeah, when everyone, like you said just then, everyone associates traveling with like sightseeing and tourism and the food and stuff, but if you're traveling to a place and you're cutting weight and then you got like a big tournament or a competition coming up, you got things to do, like it's just work. So that it's like a 16 or 24-hour drive to work. That's terrible.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone fantasizes about flying. Like the shitty fucking 17-hour flights. You know, the other thing is I hear people in the US go, I just got off a 9-hour flight or an 8-hour flight to Britain or whatever. And I think that's like Perth to us, you know, like a little bit further than Perth. Like, I wish I only had to fly 7 hours, you know? Like,
you know, though, like, I do like flying. Like,
yeah, but you're a sociopath, dude.
No, because when you're in the air, I can't sleep anyway, and normally I'm reading and I enjoy reading. But when you're flying, there's nothing else you can or should be doing than just sitting there on your bum, reading or just doing whatever you want. Like, I enjoy that period. It's not, now, it'd be better if when I landed I didn't have to do anything and could sleep for 5 days. But like that little brief window of like your only purpose in life at this point is just to sit here. Like,
and no one can bother you, right?
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
I'm uncomfortable on planes. I don't sleep properly.
You look uncomfortable now.
No, I'm not comfortable on the planes. I don't like it. And I think that's rough like that.
The worst part about flying, I think, is like if we're flying to do something that's not a vacation, right? And you want to try and relax on the plane, or like you say, you want to try and get some sleep. The problem is, and I feel bad, is that the people that are going on vacation, they're super pumped. They're excited to be on the plane. They want to drink, talk, be loud and stuff. And you're like, it kills you, hey. Obviously, you don't want to tell them to shut up and kill their excitement on their journey. But if you have to fly for business and someone's there loving life, it's a painful experience.
You know what kills me? When they bring the tray of food out and there's always that little bit of cake. I don't know if you've had much. Do you have to cut weight a lot?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of cake, and we're heading over for training, and there's a little square piece of cake. Little piece. It's a tiny piece. And it comes down, and I just look at it going, I can't eat that. You pieces of shit.
So then let's say you fly out to the UK. I think you were saying to me the other day, you flew out to UK, and you had 11 seminars or something in 12 days?
No,
or were you lying?
No, I flew. Actually, I think I did 20 seminars in 21 days and competed, and that was all throughout the UK and Ireland. That'd be like up to Scotland, Northern England, Southern England, and that was tough. It wasn't this last trip to the UK, but it was the one previous. The last one I did some seminars across Europe, but yeah, that was rough.
And for you, is that how you live? Like through seminars, is that your main income?
I guess it's supplementary income. Sometimes it's hard to say no. You know what I mean? You think about it. They ask you at a time when you're not tired. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll jump and do that seminar. And then when the time comes, you're like, oh, I just need a break right now, you know?
I have a real bad habit of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Impulsive decision maker. Almost all my decisions are based on how I feel right now. And then when the time comes, I'm always wrecked after training or something. I'm like, I would kill someone not to do this.
Yeah, you're like, what excuse do I have?
Is it hard though, that lifestyle? Like, is it hard? Because, like, I think we were talking about it before. People go like, you know, you can make a lot of money doing seminars. So and so just flies around the world doing seminars, blah 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 blah. And when I hear that, I think that doesn't sound like a bunch of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you put up an Instagram photo in Germany or something, and people are like, look at this guy, he's living it up. But they don't see that, like, maybe you got 4 hours sleep the night before because you were catching an overnight train to make the seminar the next day. And then you get to the seminar, and obviously, I would probably commit to 3 hours, but try and be a nice guy, hang out with the guys afterwards, go get dinner and stuff. But then again, sometimes that they drag your time out, right? You don't want to be like, no, I've got to go right now. But sometimes dinner after a seminar, maybe the seminar finishes at 9, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, quick dinner, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And then I look at the time, it's like 1 a.m., and I got to be up for another flight the next day to do a seminar in a different location. And that gets very draining.
Do you think it would be easier when you've finally put aside your own career? Like after you've done and ticked all the boxes that you've wanted to do in grappling, and you go, all right, now it's just seminars. Do you think that would make it?
Oh, that would be, yeah, that would make it
a ton easier, wouldn't it?
The catch-22 though is that by that stage there'd be another 26-year-old Craig Jones that he's he's the hot shit at the moment, and he's the one doing the seminars.
Man, life's bleak.
Yeah.
What
everyone just went silent. Like,
I have that effect on people.
Thanks, man.
Oh mate, you got to strike while the iron's hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you enjoying it though?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it sometimes in the moment. Like sometimes when you're traveling doing seminars, in the moment you might not be having a good time. But when you look back, you're glad you did it, I guess. But this year, because ADCC happens every 2 years, I'll try and cut down the seminars, focus more on training. That's where it gets hard, because obviously you want to make money and put money away and save it up. But then if that eats into the training time, then I mean, it's a catch-22. You might start to compete less, and then we'll compete worse and get less seminars. So you don't want to be too chasing the money.
Yeah, because you're taking it from yourself at the end of the day.
Exactly, yeah.
What's so
everything else is virtually identical.
He's virtually identical. So we haven't been doing much jiu-jitsu, just been mainly sparring and that.
Stand up.
Just mainly K1 kickboxing. It's been good. It's been great for Rob's self-esteem.
Because he's a southpaw, we brought him in.
So what does that happen a lot? Do you get called in for fight camps?
No, I don't think this would be the first main one, I think. Sometimes when I'm traveling around, I'll train with the odd MMA guy and stuff. But yeah, generally speaking, not as yet.
How do you find the level of jiu-jitsu for MMA guys? With MMA guys in general?
I think MMA guys are just better athletes. Much better athletes than the average jiu-jitsu guy. It's too easy to be lazy in jiu-jitsu. So when you transition from rolling with jiu-jitsu guys to MMA guys, you realize how many corners you sort of cut and how those guys don't stop moving. That's the big difference, I think, is just the level of athlete.
Rob didn't look like he was moving that much today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wasn't moving that much, mate. You stopped that pretty easily.
So, what's the, like, if you have a world-class jiu-jitsu guy, what are the pros and cons you see from what you do? Because like when you roll, like in fairness, when you're rolling with the guys, you're head and shoulders above them, like the guys doing jiu-jitsu. But do you feel like it would be an easy transition to MMA?
If you train purely IBJJF, the way the rules work there and the way everything's structured, it guides towards a certain style of grappling. And that style of grappling, I think, is not good for MMA. That's a style of grappling where guys are going to just lay on their back and stay there for a long period of time, right? If you train for ADCC, I think in the context of those rules, they drive similar things to MMA. Like, you don't want to end up on bottom. If you get on top, you got to hold the guy down. Whereas in IBJJF, if you get on top, the guy's going to just comfortably stay on the ground. ADCC guys are going to be more likely to try and stand back up. So in those set of rules, I think your grappling style transitions better to MMA. Because I think ADCC grappling's more like a fight than, say, what you think of when you think of the IBJJF style. And ADCC forces a lot of wrestling exchanges. So all of that stuff would be better for MMA.
But for you personally, when you look at it at the level that you're at, do you see a fluid transition to MMA, or do you think that are there things that make you, like, what goes through your mind basically?
All right, yeah, I think I don't think MMA is made for grapplers. The way I see it is like, and I guess people heard Joe Rogan say similar things. Is like the fact that you've got rounds. You've got stand-ups, you know what I mean? All those things favor the striker. And like an MMA guy that understands grappling, like how hard is it to tap a guy that's sole purpose is not to get tapped? Not to mention you got to take that guy down, hold him down and submit him in 5 minutes. I don't think that favors a pure grappling style. I think if it was a fight where it was just, it was no rounds, maybe there was a certain period of time you called it, but there were no stand-ups. I reckon that's the sort of fight that would favor the grappler, but I think MMA is structured towards definitely the striking base.
So you see, and for you, you started off wanting to do MMA.
Yeah.
What changed your mind?
Nothing really changed my mind. I think because I started way back, 2005, 2006. I think MMA was illegal still back then. No one was really training it much in Adelaide at the time, so it was really...
I was going to say, it was illegal in Adelaide.
Yeah.
But in the civilized world, it was already legal.
Yeah. Well, back then there was not there was barely even a path to train jiu-jitsu multiple times a week. Most gyms maybe had 2-3 sessions a week. So no one was really, there wasn't an MMA path that was visible. Even jiu-jitsu had one tournament a year. So I just naturally navigated towards the jiu-jitsu path because there was nothing in the way of MMA at the time. It didn't even seem like a choice I could make to pursue.
Is it something you'd look at doing now?
Tough to say. I'd like to do it once, I think, but only if I accomplished, say if I won ADCC, I think I'd like to have one fight, but I don't think I'd like to make a career of it. I think I'd like to do it because I initially did want to do it.
What do you think, Rob, with someone like Craig and jiu-jitsu and fighting and that? Like, how does it feel with for Craig to transition into MMA? Craig in particular.
Yeah, he could definitely make a run for it. Like, definitely with his skill set, you know.
Because he's still very athletic as well. Like the top end of those grapplers are athletic.
Yeah, he definitely make a run for it. Like, I think maybe like when you get down to the top of the ladder sort of bit, the holes in your game would start to be like those guys that know how to shut down a grappler.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And who might be a better striker, you're going to have trouble with. But a lot of the dudes that you can get to the ground, you'll just maul, you'll run over. Like it'll be mean. But then, like you said, I think MMA is kind of, it does definitely, I think, favour strikers, and I think it favours even like wrestlers a little bit more than jiu-jitsu artists. Like
100%. Yeah.
Because it's much easier to just shut down and be passive and to stop a lot of things with a punch to the head, like, than it is to try and really engage in the grappling. Like, if I sat in your half guard well away, one hand on your hip, and every time you tried to go deep, I punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Like,
you should have done that today.
I should have. I would have had a lot more success. Like,
you should have got more than one guy to punch him.
Yeah. But like that is much easier than it is for you who's trying to work a deep half or like try to get under, or like, and then what's your option? Get up. Like, okay, he's staying too far away, I've got to get back up, and if you don't get up and he doesn't engage, they're gonna send you up anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's a horrible rule set for pure grappler.
Yeah, it definitely favors it favors MMA, like MMA as a whole, like instead of like a pure grappler, or if you had like a pure striker that had no grappling, same thing would happen. You'd eventually get taken down by a good grappler and beat up.
Do you prefer, as a fighter, the 5-5s, 3-5s, like because you gloves, no gloves, like you were saying, obviously no rounds, as long as half an hour or whatever would be more enticing for a grappler.
For sure, yeah. No stand-ups, even no gloves, I guess.
Because gloves do make a difference, eh? And they can hit you so much harder with the gloves.
Yeah.
Because the hands don't break.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? As a fighter, you personally, do you like the rounds as they are because you've just been training them, or would you think more a better expression of combat would be like 1 25-minute round or something like that?
Yeah, I think I favour more the one long round, and then if it doesn't end in 20 minutes or 25 minutes, then call it a draw. Like I think that would be better. I also think certain strikes should be allowed back in.
Like what?
Soccer kicks and stomps.
Brad style.
Do you know how hard it is to stomp someone that doesn't want to be stomped? It's hard. It's hard.
It's a bit later.
And there's so much technique to soccer kicking people, like so that you don't break your own foot. You can't just go flailing, especially with like if I was trying to soccer kick you. It's not going to work. You got long legs. Like it's hard. I think differently. But then I also don't think bites should be allowed. Or
which ones?
Bites.
No one was thinking that, mate.
Or groin shots.
You're the only one thinking that.
Or eye gouges, headbutts.
You don't like headbutts?
Yeah, headbutts headbutts are alright. I think they're alright. Like
the guys back in the day, they used to headbutt to open the cut and then stick their fingers in to stretch the cut.
Yeah, when they open the cut.
That's so gross.
True psychopath, that.
Yeah. Have you seen the documentary, The Smashing Machine?
Yeah.
See how he's doing it? He's cut the guy and he's putting marker and he's putting his
Trying to rip it
finger
open
in the guy's cut like that and just cutting him open. Imagine the infections and that you'd get. You know, he punched a guy and then he had to go get surgery because he got like a massive infection, like a massive staph in his arm.
Well, that's what happened at UFC 1. That the European guy that kicked the sumo wrestler and knocked the tooth out.
Gordeau.
Yeah, Gerard Gordeau.
Yeah, Gerard Gordeau.
One tooth went out and one tooth got stuck in his foot. And that tooth sent him to hospital for a long time. Infected his leg.
Bad staph. Maybe it wasn't staph, maybe it was just a hardcore infection.
I think mouth guard should still be allowed.
Germs in your mouth.
Yeah, that's a real unsanitary sort of. If you get a cut from a tooth, that's real dangerous.
And plus, it goes in so deep. That's fucking bad. On the subject of infections, your opponent that you were meant to.
Oh yeah, he got a real bad.
What's his name?
Jackson Souza.
And when did you find that out about the staff?
Actually, it's a funny story because I didn't know the fight was off. The promoter didn't know. Well, I guess the match. He didn't know the match was off either. But someone else called me out that was friends with Jackson and was like, now Jackson is out of the match, we can have our match. And I was like, what is this? And then I messaged the promoter and he said, I haven't heard anything. And then, we saw that picture. He doesn't want the picture being shared around apparently, but yeah.
Oh, well, fuck that one up.
It's out there.
Yeah, it's out there.
It's well and truly out there.
It's one of the worst staph infections I think I've ever seen.
It's got 4 holes. Am I allowed to say that? It's got fucking 4 holes.
When I saw it, I was thinking you have to want to let it grow for it to get that bad. Like you have to be going home and putting it under a UV light, and feeding it with spray. It's so bad.
That's up there with some of the worst stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
Randleman's was bad, Mark's was bad, but that one was.
That looks like you want to chop his leg off. Hey.
That one was scary. That one was a really scary thing to fucking see. That wasn't normal.
I got a funny story. A guy, Barry Yoshida. Have you ever heard of this guy?
Yep.
He was telling me a story when he got staph when he was younger, and he was training with some hippie guy, and the guy told him to treat it naturally.
Nah, don't do that, buddy. Antibiotics.
So he was using like apple cider vinegar or something, and he said it spread throughout his whole body. He was getting things pop up. He thought he was going to die in the end. The hospital staff were like, "What's wrong with you?"
Man, like I got it once, and someone told me to go, don't treat it with apple cider vinegar. Then when I saw the doctor's like, don't do that. Antibiotics.
I love it when people go, no, naturally, like back in the day, no one had this. I go, yeah, but a lot of people died.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people died back in the day, mate.
But staff's worse now. You know, like it's gotten a lot worse now, but you're not treating that shit. You're not treating stuff that's antibiotic resistant with apple cider vinegar, you know what I mean? Or with a fucking ointment. Like now one of the guys recently, he went to the doctor and he had staph in his leg. And I saw it, and I'm not a doctor, I barely finished high school. And I saw it, and I was, no, that's staph. And he went, and the doctor goes, no, you'll be right, just put some sorbeline cream on it. And
the doctors, that happens a lot. It happens to me. I'll be like, Doc, I've got staph. I need antibiotics. He's like, no. He's like, we'll just give it a cream for a couple of days. Some people need to be retrained in that. Hey,
how prevalent is staph for you as a grappler? How much do you see it?
I never used to see it much, but I think it's very common amongst people that train very hard, because I think as you train harder, it sort of suppresses your immune system a bit. So I notice if I haven't done much wrestling for a while, when I start to wrestle again is where I feel like I'll be more susceptible to it. I definitely think it has a big factor is the amount of sleep and rest and how hard your training is. I think if it pops up a couple times, maybe you're training too hard. Maybe your immune system's not handling it very well. But yeah, it's pretty prevalent in grap. Yeah.
How many times have you had it?
4 or 5 times, I think. But only one time where I was really I was worried. I had that recent. I had my elbow swelled out. Like it was actually pretty big and painful. Usually I catch it pretty early.
Do your competitor? Do you go to gyms, but where you look around and you're like, this looks like they're breeding it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I travel around and some gyms don't have showers. Oh. I feel like it should be a law. You know what I mean? Like if you understand the dangers of staph, you guys got to have a shower there.
Staph and ringworm and all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
How many times have you ever had ringworm?
Never had ringworm.
You've never had ringworm?
Lucky, right?
That's a barrel of fun, ringworm. and so you'll go places that don't have showers, anything, yep. And the guys, do they get shit?
I don't know. I would assume so, right?
But then again, I think with those gyms that don't have showers, like the dudes aren't training that much.
No.
Like, like if you're a guy that trains twice a week, and then I don't think your chances of getting it are going to be that high. It's only when you're doing 2 a days, 5-7 days a week, and you're practically eating on the mat like that. You got to really start taking in those extra precautions.
Yeah, sure. but dude, doing jiu-jitsu or wrestling on the mats and rolling around, even if you do it once a month, it's super unhygienic. It's you would need to shower after training, even if it's once a week.
I'm not arguing with you on that point. I think everyone.
I don't know if maybe you're just trying to get around showering after training.
Yeah, you know those showers people do when they come out of a nuclear reactor. Yeah. I think we should have those.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I would like that. I was telling you, I wouldn't mind a gym where you showered on the way in and on the way out. But you were saying that might kill the good bacteria.
That's what that's what they've said.
Unless.
We grapple in the showers.
Unless I like what your thought process is. No, except I see some guys that come straight from friggin' work.
Yeah, no, those people should shower.
They have chip rock on their arms. And I'm looking at it and I see them put their gi on. I'm oh, staff. Where's the staff?
I think if you fucking work in an abattoir or something and you have bits of fucking pig bone on you, you should shower before training.
100%. Yeah.
Isn't that a thing you should go to training like you're going on a first date? No.
Yeah, you should. Yes, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Nails cut. You don't want to be that person that.
Rohypnol in your pocket.
Yeah.
That's Eli's first date. If you get a chance to roll with Eli, Craig, please do so, because I'm going to tell you this program that we run. Hey, can you explain the program, Eloy, to thing and your involvement in the program and how you ended up here to Craig, and then I'm going to just put everything in perspective for you.
Okay, so the program we run here at TAFE is we run a Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, but we have a link with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu where the guys come down. We get them all over New South Wales, Aboriginal people all over New South Wales, and they travel down, stay here at Campbelltown. They also get to learn Jiu-Jitsu but get qualification in fitness, so they're Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. I was a student last year. I came down, I've done Jiu-Jitsu and that before, trained a bit, so I came down and got to meet the guys down here and that, and then job opportunity arose, and now I live down here and train with the guys at Smeaton Grange. But
very cool.
That's
Yeah. Okay. So you'd think in all of that, but I said to him, come down and do a session with Rob and that are training, and we went there. At the time we were training in the city, and Eli went to pass my guard, which by the way is not fucking hard to pass. Right? It wasn't necessary to do what he did. Right, and he jumped up so high, right, that I fucking lost him in the atmosphere. And he came down, blew my knee up. 6 weeks I was out for. He landed like, have you seen Mark Hunt's atomic butt drop?
Yeah.
It was like that, but without the finesse. He just landed on top of me. 6 weeks I was gone. So if you get a chance to roll with him, I don't know how you're going to deal with it, but he will do it. It was pretty bad.
I'll be ready for the atomic butt job.
Mate, he's a very, very dangerous person. He's climbed through the TAFE ranks, has been something phenomenal. He's been here six months. He has his own office.
A year.
Yeah, all right.
Came down last January.
Okay, he's been here for a year. He's got his own office. A lot of people lost their jobs in that process, but
one person has lost.
but Eli has climbed his way to the top, mate. He's survived. And he's worked his way into the podcast. Dave Roberts, the regional manager, used to run this. You know Dave that was here before?
Yep.
Eli took his job too. So just be careful, mate. You got to sleep with one eye open around this guy. He's a very, very dangerous man. So what's next for you now? What's next?
I guess we'll try and find another opponent for this February match, because I think Jackson's going to be out for a while with that one set.
He's not going to tough it out.
Yeah. So actually, I'm flying to
Wait, I want to ask a question. Is he in fucking hospital?
I believe he was in hospital, yeah. I don't know if he still is.
He'd have to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, this weekend I'm actually filming something with Sakuraba.
That's so cool.
So it'd be cool to hang out with him.
What are you going to do with him?
So I'll be the demonstration partner, which I agreed to do before I actually remembered how horrible in his past
he treats
he treats them. So I'll probably come out of that with a couple of injuries, actually.
What's his English like?
He has no English. I have no Japanese.
This is just getting better and better.
So that's going to be very interesting.
What other competitions you got coming up? You mentioned a competition earlier, but I don't know if we're allowed to ask.
Yeah. I got a no time limit match with Tim Spriggs.
When's that?
I think that's in March. So that's with like Grappling Industries in Philadelphia. So that's going to be, unless it finishes quick, that's going to be a very unpleasant day.
Why is that?
I mean, just no time limit. And Tim Spriggs, very, very athletic guy. So if he plays a very evasive game, last time they did a no time limit, it went for 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
It's a long time to grapple for. That's a long time. What preparation do you do for that? Like, what kind of cardio do you do? Like, do you just do lots of rounds?
Yeah, for that, I prepared for one once previous, but I didn't really change my training. So I'll try and think of a good way to prepare for that match. I'll definitely prepare as if it's going to go for that long. You
told me about another match potentially in May?
In May. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I can't talk about that one yet. But that would be a rematch, so I'll leave that as the hint.
Is it hard? Do you find it because in jiu-jitsu and wrestling and sports like that of that nature, you might have to prepare for someone several times. Now, if someone has, say you've beaten them once and they've beaten you 3 times or 2 times or whatever, how hard is that to prepare for? Because now you're not just having matches where they're in your bracket, like you're having like super fights.
Yeah, that's how it's changed, I guess, is that when you do a tournament, you sort of want to come up with a game plan for the tournament, for the division. So you're preparing for a wide range of people. So I guess just doing super fights and grappling, you sort of get, I guess, the same strategic prep as you would for like an MMA fight. Like you only have to worry about one opponent, so you can really try and study their game, figure out a good strategy to beat them. So that I enjoy that side of it more than preparing for a tournament. For a tournament, you just never know who you're going to get.
What's it like to rematch someone?
It's good. I think I like to rematch someone I've lost to, right? I'd much rather that. I find it very difficult if you've beaten someone. Do you change your winning strategy? You sort of have to, because you know unless they have terrible game planning, they're not going to come in with the same strategy, right? So I find it much more difficult to prepare for someone I've already beaten than to try and just wing a new strategy against someone where my strategy failed me last time.
What about you, Rob? You had to face the same guy twice in a barrel of fun for all the family fight. What's that like?
It's hard. It's like you said, because you try to work out a strategy for his counter strategy, and you were there. Like we worked it for close to a year. The thing was, you can't truly understand how that new strategy is going to affect you until you're in there. And that's where I guess you start finding things out. But I don't really like rematches are alright, but it gets. I like new faces, new opponents. I like the new challenge, the new obstacles, and the new thought processes. Trying to stick to the same game plan and the same sort of stylistic matchups for like that amount of time can just wear on you.
It's not as exciting, right?
Yeah.
How much in your? Sorry, can you go? Yeah, can you? Yeah. How much in your? No, because I think you're covering your face with the microphone. In your match, how much? Have you grappled against Gordon Ryan twice?
3 times.
3 times. What was the changes that were made in those matches?
The first one, the first time we had a match, I was already drinking beer, so I didn't have much of a game plan going into that one. When we had a second match at EBI, and we mixed up the game plan a bit for that. I was trying to obviously engage the legs or force an overtime, and EBI rules.
Why were you forcing the overtime?
Because EBI, so it was like, it's 4 matches to win the tournament. And if it goes 10 minutes, now you alternate between back control or in an armbar. And you do that 3 times or until someone submits the other one. But over the course of the tournament, I had 3 matches in 3 minutes. So I was coming in fresh. Gordon had 3 matches, and I think he'd already been out there for over 20 minutes. So given how fatigued he was, I was hoping I would force an overtime and beat him in the overtime rounds. And it was working out. I got Gordon in an armbar, but he just didn't tap to the armbar. Took a fair amount of damage. Didn't break his arm, but took a fair amount of damage. And then he survived that and came back to choke me. I think with the arm, I almost broke.
Fuck. How big is he? He's a big guy, eh?
For that event, he was the biggest I've ever seen him. He was 233 pounds.
Just like 108?
108, and I think I was maybe 200 pounds. I think for that event.
So about 90 kilos.
Yeah. And I always think to myself, I'm like, would his arm have broken if we were the same weight?
But that's a lot bigger, though. That's a huge man that he is.
Heel hooks.
How much? That would affect your game a lot, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it ended up playing a factor into this one because I took a guillotine. He shot on me, and I took a guillotine where I probably should have just defended the takedown. And by missing the guillotine, he landed super deep in a really great control. And it was just downhill from there. I wasn't able to scramble to even recover back to a neutral position. And he was able to take the back and choke me. So, yeah, it's tough to game plan for that, especially for a guy like that who's very, very creative. He comes at you in different ways every single time. He's probably, I would say, the best grappler in the world right now.
Okay. And in your rematch, what were the differences that you felt from Yoel, and what were the differences that you brought in?
Well, I had a lot of success with the first game plan I implemented on him in in the first fight. So in the second fight, I implemented like a similar game plan because we were watching how he fought, and we saw the way he fought against Rockhold, and we try to predict his new style, which still fit into my original game plan. So we went with that, but I guess the difference, the biggest factor was like when I was in there with him, his resilience to damage, like it's just that, and he's just raw sheer amount of power he has. But he always looks like he has power, but like it was something special that fight.
With what's it like been like training with Rob? I said to Craig earlier that one of the goals was for you to get your grappling like close to his level, and he just laughed a lot. He just laughed a lot, and then sort of like hugged me and cried a little bit, and then laughed again. But what's it been like training with?
No, it's been a bit of a wake up call just to see how great an athlete these guys are. You know what I mean, and how mentally strong and just don't fatigue, and they make adjustments on the fly. Even in just a few short days, Rob's been able to make adjustments and I guess implement. Like even today, he changed his strategy against me and was able to shut me down for the entire round. You know what I mean?
So
which round was that?
So what? It was like a 1 minute round at the end after like we just trained so hard. He had been put against everyone like 50 times. And it was like a 1 minute round right at the end.
Because there was another round where you didn't tap Rob. I saw that, but you weren't rolling with him. you were rolling with someone else. So sorry, you were saying that what it's been like training?
Yeah, just I think as MMA guys have to adapt to multiple different arts, right? So I think they have to change game plans a lot quicker. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're not dedicated. You can't dedicate yourself to an individual aspect when you have to spread it over, I guess, multiple areas. So these guys have to test out new game plans each and every day, right? So it's good to see how they adjust each and every training session, just minor adjustments.
What about you, Rob? What's it been like training with?
Yeah, massive eye opener just to the caliber of those best in the world few, those guys at the pinnacle of grappling right now. It's there's a huge level shift, huge. And that I guess has been the biggest one. Just realizing how deep grappling is and how deep the pool is of talent. It's just unreal.
What happens for you now? Will you go home? Will you go back to Melbourne after Tokyo? You'll come back. Will you be in Melbourne for a while training?
Yeah, I'll be in Melbourne for the next month.
Okay, and then?
And then head over to the UK for this match. Then I'll head over to the States for the next match straight after. And then I'll probably be looking at seeing what match comes next for May and see where my base will be to prepare for that. But ADCC will be September, so that'll be the main goal for everything, really.
So are you putting time aside, and where will you base your training at for ADCC?
I'd say in Melbourne. I mean, it depends. Like Lockie, my coach, depending on if he qualifies, that'll be a contributing factor too, because obviously it's much easier preparing for a tournament with someone else in the tournament. So that'll be a contributing factor, but be something I'll have to decide around the time, I think. You know what I mean? It's hard to find training partners in grappling sometimes, especially if it could be a potential opponent. I
was about to ask you that if you go overseas, what's that like now? Because you going overseas and preparing for competition, you're potentially preparing with your competition.
Exactly. Yeah, that does make it it does make it strange sometimes rolling with a guy that you might compete against. I don't mind if we compete and then we train straight after or something, but yeah, if you have to compete against each other in the immediate future, then it gets tricky.
And you're there with his coaches, and I imagine his coaches don't care about you at all, like in that scenario.
Yeah, well, when I have trained at John Danaher's, it has been just great. Like it's sort of, from my perspective, it's not like there were any secrets. Guys would help me out with whatever, you know what I mean? But I guess if it does come down to a match against someone from their team, obviously that's definitely going to favor them, having had me in there seeing the game I play.
Yeah.
But again, that gives you the opportunity to know what they expect from you and change the game plan for a potential match in the future.
So if you go Tokyo,
yeah.
and then you go...
Then I stop over in Cairns for a seminar on the way back, and then back to Melbourne for the next month.
And then you go from there to
the UK probably mid-February.
And you'll do a seminar, and then you got to compete in May?
I'll compete in February, March, and then I think the next one will probably be May after that.
Is it hard for you to get enough training in?
Definitely. It's just a balancing act between staying fit, getting enough training, but also saying yes to enough seminars, supplement the income enough, but not too much where I would lose that training altogether.
Fuck, it's a big balancing act. Massive balancing act.
Yeah.
All right. Eli, do you have anything? Do you mind if... I'm just going to see if we have any questions from fans.
Yep.
That it's probably just my mum listening to the podcast, but... Because there's always people asking stuff on the thingo.
Yes, there is.
What's your opinion on John Jones versus Anthony Smith? Anyone?
You can take this one.
I guess I don't know. I guess it's interesting after... I guess if John Jones would be licensed here, because that's meant to be scheduled for Nevada, right?
Yeah.
I guess with John Jones, there's so much more interesting things around the fight than the fight itself.
I know that's going to... On that question somebody else asked, which I was going to ask as well, please ask Craig about PEDs in the upper echelon of BJJ.
Right. I guess the reality is there's just no drug testing in jiu-jitsu.
So super clean.
So no one takes anything, yeah.
Honesty system.
I mean, if you get a note like Pal Harris, it's fine.
So it's rife.
It's rife, yeah. Well, I guess it's rife because I don't want this to sound racist, but like different cultures, it's not as big a deal to them. You know what I mean? I think in Brazilian culture, it's very common. I don't even think it's illegal there. I mean, in Russia,
You lived in Brazil?
Yeah, it's very free flowing. You can go down to the chemist and they'll jab you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also commonly known down there that they say, do you know what I mean, when you go to these big competitions, everyone's going to be juiced up. So then they think in their head, I need to be juiced up for it to be able to counter that.
Sometimes you need to avoid being hurt. like if you're a young guy and you're not juiced up and you go up against someone like Pal Harris, and you're like, what are you going to do? You're going to die.
Juice up. Yeah.
You're going to get your leg broken and bleed out.
The women in Brazil love juicing up as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing I've heard as well.
They love it because of the legs, do you know what I mean? They get that pump in the legs. And
they value the muscle a bit more.
Yeah, they love it.
So it is more or less rife.
Well, at the IBJJF Gi Worlds, they test, but it could be anyone on the podium.
It could be anyone on the podium and they test that day.
And they test that day, yeah. So what does Victor Conte say? He's like, if they tell you when you're going to test, it's not a drug test,
it's an IQ test.
Yeah.
But it's so that's not even testing. So
well, I guess what's funny is some guys still fail the test.
Jesus. Why don't you cycle off, dude? Just fucking cycle off.
Relax.
Yeah.
Slow down a bit, mate.
But that speaks, like not just of your IQ, but like of where your mindset has to be at, that you're like, I can't even cycle off like I need.
The best, I always wanted to play this prank, but I don't want to play the prank where they have the ability to compete against me and injure me. Is I want to...
Sorry, what'd you say?
Like I want to play a prank at one of these jiu-jitsu tournaments, like for ADCC. There's no drug testing at all. I'd love to pay someone to pretend to be a reporter and like interview these guys and be like, what do you think about them implementing drug testing this year? And just see
the reactions.
The facial expression change.
But in the UFC they don't even ban you anyway. It's like they just move the show.
Big shots.
Fuck.
Big shots.
Does Rob use a sports nutritionist for his training weight cuts? What would be his usual daily calories in training? That's from Tristan Cannell.
No idea. No, I got a great team around me that they give me advice and talk to me and guide me through the ways of nutrition. Like most of my team have diplomas in sports science and health. So I'm lucky enough to have great guidance in terms of like my nutrition and whatnot. I don't count calories as much as just make sure I'm eating when I should be, eating the right types of foods, and the amounts are the same. Also, like we've spoken about spreadsheets a lot of the times, but that we track my weight throughout the year on these spreadsheets as well, so we can tell when my weight's spiking or not, or coming down based on the amount of training, based on how I'm eating, based on the time of year it is.
Here's a question. It says, should the UFC follow BJJ and just make PEDs legal?
Practically is.
What do you think, Craig? We'll come back to you in a second.
Well, so my problem is, right, is if you have a drug testing system in place and there are clear examples of people beating the testing, then you actually...
Or taking tainted supplements.
Yeah. Well,
and it's always them that take it.
So many of them.
Well,
many tainted supplements.
You probably created a more uneven playing field in that the rich, successful athletes can afford to beat the tests and the lower level guys can't. So if you're trying to take away an uneven playing field, but what you're doing is creating a bigger uneven playing field, then I don't know what the answer is. I don't think it's to open it up, but it's clearly not working, right?
What do you think, Rob?
I think what we should do, bear with me here, is extend the round to 30 minutes, and then, like, if no one dies, like, draw, as well as bring in a lot of those different techniques and let everyone not only allow it, but encourage PEDs. I think we should develop newer and more improving drugs so that everyone is superhuman. So that you have like a superhuman fight for 30 minutes.
Straight.
Crazy, everyone, no weight limits.
You know what, but at least if you know that, you can go off that.
100%. And then everyone's crazy and the fights will be more exciting, everyone will love it. And then we can start bringing in, once you get a human that's like 250, jacked, fast, agile, we can start doing crazier things like animal fights and group fights and different things like that. Like, you know, we're going past the limitations of human.
Good. Hoxton wants to know advice for someone who wants to start BJJ. I'm assuming that's for Craig or Eli.
Wants to start it, but they don't train at all, I guess.
I'm assuming so. First, obviously, goes without saying, copious amounts of steroids. Huge, yeah.
I would say don't wait to get fit to get into it, but if you haven't done any exercise for a long time, definitely ease yourself into it. Some of the most devastating injuries I've seen are guys that have maybe been behind the desk for 10 years and then come into grappling thinking they're going to kill everyone, and then they take a bad injury. So I definitely think baby steps into it. You know what I mean? If you've had an inactive life, I guess.
I'd like to pitch in there. I think you're onto something. I think copious amounts of PEDs, but for at least like 3 years. You need like 3 years of that stuff, and then jump into the beginners class.
Well, there's people that do that.
Yeah.
There are people that do that. There's a guy here. There's a couple of people arguing something about the elite Jews in the world. So we're going to leave that one completely alone. And there's another thing. Do you think that, if I'm paraphrasing this person's comment, but it says something about basically, does it detract from the fight if a person has cut a lot of weight and he's the bigger fighter? Do you think it detracts from the fight, Eli?
Yes.
Do you think, like, if a guy, like a much bigger guy, cuts down, like say John Jones is bigger than Rashad Evans, does it take away from the fight, or does the fact that they both made the weight, that's all that matters?
What do you mean? Do you mean like, will John Jones suffer for having the bigger cut?
No, like they're saying, like say for example, if you cut weight, if you do a big weight cut to get into division and you win your fight, does it take away from your win the fact that you are bigger and that you were able to make the weight?
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. That's a stupid answer, Eli.
Yeah,
I thought the same as what you thought.
Yeah, not at all. If you've suffered and killed yourself to get into the division, and I'm also going off that you're both clean and it's straighty 180. Like, you guys are good.
And
then,
you made the weight.
Yeah, and you made the weight. You made the weight. Like, that's it. Like, you had to suffer. Like, you could have hopped in the sauna too. Like,
What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, like they say, I mean, it's not just them cutting weight. That's a horrible experience they have to go through. So, knowing how bad it is to cut weight, I don't think it detracts from the victory.
Do you want us to call you, this is my question, do you want us to call you Craig or Craig? That's amazing that they call you that.
Oh, yeah. I'm used to both of them now.
what do they call you?
Americans say Craig. Australians say Craig.
Craig. Huh.
Yeah. And you're okay with Craig?
Yeah, I'm used to both now. Sometimes people say Craig, and I think they're saying Greg or something. So
Do you
that
have a
gets me.
fight name?
No fight name.
Can I give you one?
What should I give him?
I don't know, but I'll work it out.
All right.
Leave it with me.
Just, I'm going to leave it. Let's leave it there because of some of these people asking weird questions. And no, just leaving it. No, thank you very much, guys, for coming on the show. Can you tell us what's on next for you?
I guess I'm competing in Liverpool, in England, in February 23. That'll be the next competition.
Okay. Rob, what's going on with you?
Fighting in Melbourne, February 10. Kelvin Gastelum. That should be fun. It's going to be a great card. Seats are sold out, so if you missed out,
It's sold out ridiculously quick, eh?
8 minutes. So that's in about 4 weeks now. 4.5 weeks, or is it 5 weeks?
4.
Yeah, 4.5 weeks. 4.5 weeks now. So
Almost 4 to the day. It's 8th of January.
So yeah, it's coming close. Just training along should be a bit of fun.
How's training going?
Yeah, it's been hard. This week's been hard with old mate here.
It's been hard for me too.
coming in and just destroying us. But it's been fun. You know, fortunately enough, you're a nice enough bloke. Would have been awkward week if you weren't. But no, it's been great. You know, a lot of things learned, networks made, hard training done, which is the key, and yeah, you know.
Give us a thing. What the training's been. So what's the training been with you two this week? Like,
which has been grappling, like a lot of the day.
Yeah, like break that down to.
I don't know. Well, get up early. 7:30. I don't like getting up before 8. I hate it. There's something about 7:30 that just kills me. Like, what time have you been getting up?
Yeah, about 7:30 too.
But anything before 8 is terrible. Like, nothing good happens before 8 o'clock. The side rant, sorry. Then we go to training and we grapple in the morning, which is hard. Then we have a break after that, a couple of hours to go eat, just more or less just eat, like grab your gear and then go back to training. We go back to training, we have a bigger stint throughout the afternoon. Again, more hard grappling, more hard training, and then we wrap it up for the night, rest, recover. Just like with the heat that it hasn't even been that hot here, but I've had to, after the sessions, I've had to spend the rest of the night like hydrating like violently.
It's still pretty hot though. Would you say, Craig? It's still pretty hot.
Yeah, like the humidity, right?
Yeah.
Humidity. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm just drinking non-stop fluids after class.
Like, it looks like I've cut weight after the sessions. Like, my face is running, like, and I have to just rehydrate the whole night. Like, it's hard, and yeah, we do that, and then sleep. Try to get to sleep early enough. Don't usually wake up at 7:30 again.
Excellent. We've got one more day today, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow night we have a seminar at our gym with you.
Yep. So we'll run over some leg locks tomorrow night.
Awesome. No,
Be
great.
fun.
All right, thank you very much, guys, and shout out to Absolute MMA in Melbourne, and yeah, that's it. Thank you very much,
Peace,
guys.
guys.
Take